Welcome to this Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. If you're the kind of person who loves to learn efficiently, optimize your brain, and basically master new skills with laser focus, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're exploring the super fascinating world of memory mastery. Specifically, we're looking at highly actionable cognitive life hacks that will dramatically improve your recall. We're not talking about, just getting more sleep or taking vitamins. We're looking at specific, structured techniques that you can literally start using right this minute.
Okay, let's dive into this. 40,000. Let that sink in for a second. That's the current world record for the number of digits of pi memorized and recited straight from long-term memory. 40,000. It sounds completely superhuman, doesn't it? But here's the thing. The secret behind this phenomenal feat isn't some magical brain. It's the exact set of structured tools we're going to break down today.
Here is the level up journey we're taking today. 1. The power of mnemonics. 2. Hacking short-term memory. 3. Building a memory palace. 4. Rhyme, rhythm, and music. And 5. Real-life memory masters. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The power of mnemonics.
So before we unpack these specific techniques, we kind of need to know what we're actually dealing with. A mnemonic is simply a memory trick. It's a structured tool designed to help you remember long strings of information, very often in a specific required order. And these aren't just cheap parlor tricks either. These are the foundational devices that allow totally ordinary people to achieve phenomenal feats. Whether you want to memorize an entire shuffled deck of cards, remember an important phone number, or create a highly secure password that you'll actually, remember, mnemonics are the key to the whole shebang.
Section 2. Hacking short-term memory.
And this brilliantly illustrates our starting point. You see, our brains have built-in constraints. By default, our short-term memory storage can really only hold about 5 to 9 individual items at a time. It's just a hard limit. But if we use our very first memory trick, which is called chunking, we completely change the rules. Instead of 5 to 9 individual items, that exact same storage space can hold up to 4 chunks of information. That exponentially increases what we can recall.
So the process of chunking is exactly what it sounds like. It's taking multiple pieces of chaotic information and chunking them up into distinct, structured groups. You can group things based on the position in which you learn them, or maybe by similarities between the pieces of info. The absolute most universal example of this is how we memorize phone numbers. Trying to remember 10 random numbers in sequential order is genuinely hard for our brains. But we naturally split them into 3 chunks, right? The 3-digit area code, the next 3 digits, and the final 4 digits. Bam! 3 familiar chunks effortlessly bypass that natural 10-item limit.
Next up is trick number 2, acronyms. An acronym is just a simple abbreviation for a list of info that makes the ordering infinitely easier to remember. Think back to grade school for a second. Trying to remember the exact mathematical order of parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction? Yeah, that is a huge ask during a stressful math test. But PEMDAS, that's just one word. Even a decade after your last math class, that single word sticks like glue, and it reveals a complex sequence of info you'd probably otherwise forget. We see the exact same thing with Roy G. BIV for the colors of the rainbow. But hey, what if PEMDAS doesn't stick for you? Well, that leads us right to trick number 3, acrostics. Some people didn't learn PEMDAS, they learned, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." An acrostic is basically when you turn an acronym into a full sentence. By giving those letters just a little bit more meaning, you massively increase the likelihood of recalling it. Think back to elementary school music class. Every good boy does fine. Or the planets in our solar system. My very educated mother just served us 9 pizzas. As a general rule, the sillier and more unique the sentence is, the easier it's going to be to remember. Now, what's really interesting here is how we can actually apply acrostics practically in our modern digital lives, specifically for creating highly secure passwords. Instead of a basic, easily hacked password, try thinking of a famous, easily recalled movie quote. Take Star Wars, for example. "May the Force be with you." Now, the sentence itself is way too long or maybe too easily guessed by an algorithm. But if you convert it to an acrostic, you get MTFBWY. You now have this seemingly random password that is incredibly difficult for someone to guess, but literally effortless for you to remember. Toss in some numbers and maybe another favorite quote, and your password strength goes through the roof.
Section 3. Building a memory palace.
All right, this takes us into a super fascinating, highly spatial world of memory that dates all the way back to the ancient Greeks and was made famous in pop culture by Sherlock Holmes. A memory palace is basically a virtual palace constructed entirely in your mind. Because we as humans have incredibly strong associative memories, this technique works absolute wonders. Here's how you actually build one. First, you start with a physical place you know intimately, like your childhood home or maybe your current apartment. Second, you mentally walk around each room and pick out 4 to 5 specific permanent items, like a sofa, a window, or a TV. Once you have those permanent items reliably memorized so you can easily recall, say, the third item in the second room, you move to step 3. You take the new information you want to learn, like the order of cards in a deck, and assign each card to one of those permanent objects using some sort of vivid, crazy association. But a quick practical heads up on this technique. While a memory palace absolutely allows you to easily recall complex lists way larger than 10 items, it does require a really significant investment of time and practice to develop properly. This is, for sure, not a trick you pull out at 2 a.m. the night before a time-sensitive test. It's a long-term skill.
Section 4. Rhyme, Rhythm, and Music.
Okay, let's pivot to some audio-centric mnemonic techniques. Rhyming is a device that works incredibly well, especially when we're kids. We embed these historical facts permanently into our brains with simple rhymes like, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, or we learn weird spelling rules with I before E except after C. The really fascinating thing about the power of the rhyme is that it sticks in our heads permanently, even when we explicitly know that that specific spelling rule has, like, 20 exceptions.
Let's move to trick number 6 and see how this builds. Rhythm and music. Think about 2 absolute childhood staples, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and the ABC song. Did you know they share the exact same musical notes and rhythm? I know, it's wild. That rhythm is basically the perfectly engineered vehicle to carry complex information, like an entire 26-letter alphabet, directly into a child's developing brain.
And music is just unparalleled at helping people encode memories into long-term storage. The source material shares this awesome anecdote about a trip to Florida. The person listened to Drake's Money in the Grave something like 20 to 40 times while on vacation. Now, long after the trip, whenever that specific rhythm and song plays, it instantly triggers these deep, vivid memories of the beach and the salty, dry Florida air. And you can actively use this. You can reword lyrics or listen to specific musical beats while you're studying to permanently encode complex information.
Section 5. Real-life memory masters. Now we're looking at the absolute peak of what is possible, the professionals who literally push these exact techniques to world record levels. Looking at the history of famous mnemonists, we really have to start with S, famously described in the 1968 book The Mind of a Mnemonist. His real name was Solomon Shereshevsky. For a long time, it seemed like he could remember absolutely anything, which led a lot of people to believe he had a photographic memory. But actually, scratch that, further research revealed he didn't have a photographic memory at all. He was just a highly skilled mnemonist who likely possessed 5-fold synesthesia. Following right in his footsteps, by the 1980s, mnemonists were hitting Guinness World Records by reciting over 30,000 digits of pi. This immense competitive spirit is actually what led to the creation of the World Memory Championships, which have taken place every single year since 1993. And when we're talking about the World Memory Championships, we absolutely have to highlight Alex Mullen. He became the very first American ever to win the championships, and he achieved the highest score in the history of the entire competition. No way, right? He truly represents the absolute pinnacle of what a dedicated, practiced mnemonic toolkit can accomplish.
So the crucial point here is that memory is highly malleable, and you can map your own progress. If you want to know where you currently stand before applying all these new hacks, you don't have to just guess. There are free quizzes available online right now to test your baseline short-term and long-term memory. Taking one of these tests is just a fantastic way to establish a starting point before you begin building your memory palaces or crafting your new acrostics.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer. You now know the science behind chunking, you know exactly how to use acronyms and acrostics to build rock-solid passwords, and you know the mental architecture of a memory palace. So I'll leave you with this. What will you choose to memorize first with your brand new toolkit? Thank you so much for joining me today, and happy memorizing.